Good Friday morning, and thank you for joining us here on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Jason Hackett. Let's get to your headlines. Happening today, a judge is expected to rule on whether the city of Minneapolis will get a restraining order to keep a homeless encampment closed. The order would prevent Hammoudi Sabri from reopening the encampment on his Lake Street property. The camp's been the site of several incidents over the summer, and just last week, a deadly mass shooting. Audrey Russo tells us more.
Yeah, we'll see what effect the weekend had on this case. Going into court today, the city and the property owner will face a judge with an update on their negotiations, determining the future of the homeless encampment on Lake Street. Minneapolis is trying to get the judge to issue a temporary restraining order preventing Hammoudi Sabri from reopening the encampment on that Lake Street property. Now, the city claims the shooting from last week is just the latest in a series of health and safety hazards citations that you see here in this filing. Now, in a hearing last week, the judge ordered both sides to try to resolve the problem before coming back to court today. And during those proceedings, it's clear that the two sides have a large divide to bridge.
It's just a ticking clock for some kind of immeasurable tragedy.
The real nuisance, as far as the city is concerned, are the people that have nothing.
Now, Sabri was ordered not to open any new encampments over the weekend, so we'll see where the negotiations stand. Today's hearing is set for this afternoon. Back to you.
Audrey, thank you. Happening today, Turning Point USA is making its tour stop at the University of Minnesota this evening. The event comes nearly 2 weeks after the organization's founder, Charlie Kirk, was assassinated on the same campus tour in Utah. Tonight's event has been renamed to feature Michael Knowles, a conservative political commentator. Everyone attending must be at least 18 years old and will be required to show a government-issued ID at the door. Michelle Beck has more on what to expect.
Well, in just a matter of hours, Turning Point USA will be hosting what's called a high-energy evening at Northrop Auditorium. It'll be the group's very first stop since the funeral of its founder, Charlie Kirk. You'll notice tonight's event has been renamed to feature Michael Knowles, a conservative political commentator. It's on this same tour of college campuses nationwide when Kirk, then in Utah, was fatally shot. And now we're seeing safety protocols at the U, like audience members needing to show government ID to get in. Also banned are water bottles, signs, banners, and certain types of bags. The university declined to speak with us on security because it's not sponsoring the event. But here's what a retired FBI special agent had to say.
With the heightened security awareness environment that we're in, it's something that has to be taken very, very seriously as we move forward with these events. I'm confident that the security professionals at the University of Minnesota event will have taken the lessons from some of these other incidents.
So if there was a security wish list, the former special agent said he'd want metal detectors and security that can move around like to rooftops. He also says everyone should be aware of their surroundings and report anything suspicious. Back to you.
And today's event at the U of M comes one day after a memorial service was held for Kirk in Glendale, Arizona. Tens of thousands of people filled State Farm Stadium, including President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and top administration officials who promised to carry on Kirk's mission. During the ceremony, Kirk's wife, Erica, told the crowd she has forgiven the man charged with killing her husband. The president had previously said that he will award Kirk the Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor. Now, the Turning Point event happened amidst tough questions on free speech. From the suspension of ABC late-night host Jimmy Kimmel to new rules at the Pentagon, free speech is being challenged. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest from Washington.
This morning, pressing questions from both sides of the aisle about free speech in America, as tens of thousands said goodbye to the murdered conservative activist Charlie Kirk at a public memorial in Arizona.
I will miss him so much because our marriage and our family were beautiful.
Many, including President Trump, honoring Kirk's commitment to promoting free speech.
It's the right and inheritance of every free American, the greatest legacy of the Enlightenment, and among the most treasured achievements of civilization. We will defend it at all costs.
Now, in the wake of Kirk's assassination, there are new concerns about censorship, thrust to the forefront after ABC indefinitely pulled its late-night host Jimmy Kimmel off air after his comments about Republicans' response to Kirk's murder that led to criticism from the FCC chairman and suggestions of potential action involving the network's license. President Trump has since made similar comments, lawmakers in both parties weighing in.
The FCC was wrong to weigh in, and I'll fight any attempt by the government to get involved with speech.
Censorship and what we're seeing from the federal government only serves to further divide us and make us less safe.
It comes amid new Defense Department restrictions that journalists can no longer gather or report information, even unclassified, without authorization from the government or risk losing their press credentials. The National Press Club calling it a direct assault on independent journalism, while Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth argued the press does not run the Pentagon, the people do. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Well, this morning, President Trump is expected to make a major announcement on autism. During Sunday's memorial service for Charlie Kirk, Trump teased that announcement, saying Monday will bring the biggest medical announcement in the history of the country. Reports indicate that Trump's administration will link the development of autism in children with the use of the pain reliever Tylenol during pregnancy.
Going to be doing it with Bobby and Oz and all of the professionals. I think you're going to find it to be amazing. I think we found an answer to autism. How about that? Autism.
Some sad news this morning as we're learning more about the deadly crash that killed a 1-year-old boy on Saturday night. According to police, the driver lost control on an exit ramp on Highway 36 in Maplewood. The car landed upside down in a ditch, submerged under 1 to 2 feet of water. Police say the 1-year-old was pulled from underneath the vehicle and was pronounced dead at the scene. 4 others, including 2 more children, were in the car. They were hurt but expected to be okay. Authorities say alcohol was involved. This morning, police are still looking for a suspect involved in the deadly shooting in Minneapolis on Saturday. Officers say they responded to the shooting just before midnight on Chicago and Franklin Avenues in the city's Ventura Village neighborhood. According to police, a witness reported hearing a single gunshot, then seeing a man collapse. First responders brought the man to the hospital where he later died. They say the shooting stemmed from a fight and that the possible suspect fled the scene. Metro Transit riders, listen up here. Starting tonight, the entire Blue Line will shut down for nearly 2 weeks. That shutdown begins at 10 o'clock tonight and will last through October 4th. Replacement buses will run along every Blue Line stop with staff on hand to help riders navigate the changes. Metro Transit says they need to do necessary maintenance to avoid bigger problems down the road.
And after 20 years of service, the Blue Line is starting to see signs of its age. So we're going to take out some sections of track that have worn down and need to be replaced. We're also going to replace some of the equipment that's used to move trains from one track to another.
So unlike past closures, riders will be required to pay a $2 fare to ride those replacement buses. Australia, Canada, and the UK all announced that they're recognizing Palestine as a state this weekend. The move marks a significant shift in foreign policy and puts 3 of our closest allies at odds with the U.S. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu accused the foreign leaders of giving a, quote, prize to Hamas. The move is largely symbolic, granting the Palestinians increased diplomatic standing, but it does not change the realities in the Gaza Strip, where the humanitarian crisis continues to worsen after nearly 2 years of war. Ukrainian President Zelensky says he is set to meet with the president this week at the U.S. General Assembly in New York. This comes amid rising tension between the U.S. and Russia after the recent Russian incursions into NATO airspace. Amy Kiley tells us more.
There's no restraint on Putin right now.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he's meeting with President Donald Trump this week as U.S.-Russian tensions rise. He says they'll talk on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly in New York. Their meeting comes as Trump says he will defend the Baltic states and Poland from Russia if necessary. That statement before Charlie Kirk's memorial yesterday follows Russian incursions into NATO airspace. Those include flying jets over Estonian territory Friday and drones over Polish and Romanian land earlier this month.
Zelensky has spent 3.5 years making the argument that Putin will not stop at Ukraine, and I think he'll be able to make that even more forcefully and to push for a clear position from Trump on getting tough on Russia.
Article 5 of the NATO treaty says an attack on one member state is an attack on all of them.
Sooner or later, if this kind of provocation happens, we're going to have some kind of incident that will prompt a crisis. And that crisis will force President Trump, I suspect, to think about which side they want to take.
Article 5 requires alerting the UN Security Council. Today, that group is holding an emergency meeting at Estonia's request.
Tensions are running very high. NATO and the European allies grappling with the very real risk as these attacks escalate of this conflict spreading.
I'm Mimi Kiley reporting.
And stick with us, more news and weather coming up after the break.